everybody? It's your good pal Dustin back with another episode of Turn It Around. As always, I hope everybody had a wonderful and blessed Sunday. I hope you got to spend time with God in whatever way that looks like for you, whether it's going to church, reading your Bible, singing along to Christian music, or consuming YouTube and or TikTok Christian content. In whatever way you spend time with God on Sunday, I hope you got to do it today. Hope you get to do it throughout the week, and I hope you have a wonderful and blessed week ahead. So we are on episode 130, continuing our study of Esther. We are on the day 7 part of the study, and it was titled Reaping What Was Sown. I did check, there is at least one more day. So this isn't gonna be this isn't the end after this particular day. There is another day. I don't know if there's one after that day. I didn't think to see how many days were left because, yeah, I am not so smart very often. So, anyway, we are on episode 130. Day 7 of the study of the story of Esther, reaping what was sown. We'll just say week 7 because we're doing it weekly. So, yeah, reaping what was sown, part 1. So, to recap, last week we came kind of to the beginning of the climax of the book of Esther. We saw how God's hand of providence was coming true to fruition. We saw the hand of God's providence displayed like nowhere else in the Bible, except in my opinion, besides maybe Jesus, but that's just my opinion. So we saw all of God's chess pieces were in place. We saw the beginning of the culmination of the things God had set up for this display of his hand of providence and his power. We saw how Haman was all happy and arrogant about his whole plan to destroy the Jewish people and basically manipulating Xerxes to okay it. We saw Haman wanting to build a stake to impale Mordecai on to get rid of him. But we also saw how much favor Esther had garnered from Xerxes, from God placing her in the palace, in the presence of Xerxes as his queen. We saw how much favor she had garnered with him. Not only did he spare her for coming to him without being summoned, he's also willing to hear whatever her petition is, and even said that even if it was half the kingdom, he would give it to her. Oh, it says right here there's chapters 8 through 10, so there's at least 3 more days. So, wait, 7, 8, 9, yeah, 3 more sections of the study. So, so today we'll reach the actual climax of the story. We see the ultimate downfall of Haman in chapters. We see the ultimate downfall of Haman, and in chapters 8 through 10, we'll record the resolution of the remaining details. What happens with the Jewish people? What happens with the law that Haman had signed into law to destroy the Jewish people? We see what happened, and we see what happens to Esther. And we also get a glimpse of the Jewish holiday of Purim and its significance. Hopefully, it explains what Purim is in whichever chapter that is. If it doesn't, I will look it up if I don't forget. So, yeah. So that's what we learned last week. We saw the beginnings of the climax. And today, we reach the climax. Excuse me. Esther 7. So the king and Haman went to Queen Esther's banquet, and as they were drinking wine on the second day, the king again asked, Queen Esther, what is your petition? It will be given you. What is your request? Even up to half the kingdom, it will be granted. Then Queen Esther answered, If I have found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition, and spare my people. This is my request. For I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet, because no such distress would justify disturbing the king. King Xerxes asked Queen Esther, asked Queen Esther, who is he? Where is he, the man who has dared to do such a thing? Esther said, an adversary and enemy, this vile Haman. Then Haman was terrified before the king and queen. The king got up in a rage, left his wine, and went out into the palace garden. But Haman, realizing that the king had already decided his fate, stayed behind to beg Queen Esther for his life. Just as the king returned from the palace garden to the banquet hall, Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was reclining. The king exclaimed, Will he even molest the queen while she is with me in the house? As soon as the word left the king's mouth, they covered Haman's face. Then Harbona, one of the eunuchs attending the king, said, A pole reaching up to a height of 50 cubits stands by Haman's house. He had it set up for Mordecai, who spoke up to help the king. The king said, Impale him on it. So they impaled Haman on the pole he had set up for Mordecai. Then the king's fury subsided. So we see, Xerxes didn't even ask whose people Esther was, whose people, who her people were that she was petitioning for their lives. He took her word at face value. He took her word that it was Haman that had manipulated things to do this. It shows how much trust, how much favor Esther had garnered with Xerxes, that he would just take what she says at face value. Without any proof that he was the one who did it, other than Xerxes giving him the signet ring that would allow him to do it. That's about the only proof that was there, which is kind of shaky, or at least probably would be shaky in today's standards, but Xerxes just took her word. Xerxes was like, your people are in danger. Who did this? Who ordered this travesty, this abomination of a law? She said, Haman. And you have to think that when Xerxes went out to the garden, he was playing things in his mind, trying to see, is Esther telling the truth? Time to be alone to process. And he comes back, and Haman himself gave Xerxes all the proof he needed when Xerxes came back and saw Haman was molesting the queen, or what looked like molesting the queen. Haman begging Queen Esther for his life. If you had done nothing wrong, you would have no reason to beg for your life. Xerxes saw this and just instinctively knew he had done this. So Xerxes has Haman, his head covered, and then ultimately impaled on the same stake Haman had built to do the same to Mordecai. And only after Haman had been impaled did Xerxes' fury subside. So, not necessarily in such a dramatic fashion, but God does do that when someone hurts one of his children. He does reap vengeance on them. His fury towards that person, that group of people, whatever, it does not subside until God has delivered his vengeance on them. It's shown over and over and over again in the Bible. The flood. God's fury didn't subside until after the flood, until after he had wiped out all of humanity except for Noah. Yeah, Noah had a brain fart there. And God realized that in this instance, I may have gone too far, and that is why he gave us the rainbow as a symbol of his promise that he would never do that again. You have Moses, God's fury at the Egyptians for keeping his people enslaved even after Moses asked them to be let go. God visited all of those plagues onto Egypt, and his fury did not subside until finally the Pharaoh let the Jewish people go. God does visit vengeance and justice onto those who commit injustice, whether to his children or just in general. It might not happen in our time. It might not even happen on this earth. But eventually, God will deliver justice. Now, can only imagine how terrified, nervous Esther might have been. She was still risking her life for this. There was still a chance that Xerxes would order her to be killed. She probably prayed fervently to God before this banquet that he would give her the exact right words to say to Xerxes. And so, after she probably took a deep breath after Xerxes again asked her what her request was, how did she begin her twofold request? She begins her request by asking Xerxes to give her her life. Basically asking him to spare her life. If she had found favor with Xerxes, and only if it would please him. Basically, if you want to go deeper, basically saying, if you have any real, true love for me, please spare my life. She used the position God had put her in to gain sympathy, to gain favor, to maybe, we don't have necessarily any proof of this, but maybe even gain Xerxes' love, or at least a semblance of love. All of this time, and even though the book doesn't go into detail of whatever Esther did as queen, maybe Xerxes called her to his room to be a comfort for something that had happened, something that had upset him. Maybe he brought her into his room to, bounce an idea off of her to see what somebody outside of his position might think of something. We just don't know what she had done as queen. But with this, we can only assume that she must have done something or some things that would cause Xerxes to not only grant her her life, but in the end hear and grant her petition for the Jewish people. God put Esther in the position of queen. And with this, through this, put her in that position to gain some semblance of love from Xerxes. Sympathy, empathy, and favor. Xerxes did grant her her life. And then he just took her petition at face value without even asking any questions, except for who made this law to destroy your people. So this might have been a shorter video because it was a shorter chapter. We'll be going through the rest of the questions next week like we always do. Gives you all a chance to look through the questions and all that good stuff. So we'll go through those next week. And as always, take away from this that God is always working. God is always putting the things, the people in your path to help you on your journey. As always, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your views, your likes, your subscriptions, your comments when you leave them. It means so much to me. And if you do like what I'm doing, please do like and share the videos. Subscribe if you haven't already. I want my videos to get out to more people. And the only way that happens is with your help. So if you do like what I'm doing, do all those things I said. Like the video, share, subscribe if you haven't. So hopefully YouTube will start putting my videos on people's recommended pages so that other people can get messages of the hope and the love of God. And as always, my friends, remember that I love you, God loves you, and please remember to love yourselves and those around you. Till next time, my friends, bye!